Hello and welcome to part 5 of my Final Fantasy XIV Deep Dungeon Guide for new players. My name's TSDS, and in this video you'll learn all you need to know to beat the first 5 bosses of the palace. So let's start. The first boss you'll fight is the Palace Death Gaze on floor 10. Other than a frontal cone attack and a couple of other AoEs to avoid, there's not much else to pay attention to, as this boss will drop in about 30 seconds. Next up is the floor 20 boss, Spurge. Like all bosses, the one tanking should face it away from the group as it can frontal attack. Spurge can do an AoE poison attack centered on himself and target ranged players with an AoE to avoid. The main things you'll notice in this fight will be the room-wide AoE Leaf Storm, which you just have to heal through or ignore if you lack a healer because it doesn't hit that hard, and the bees. Towards the end of the fight, a couple of Palace Hornets will be summoned. These will both target the same random player and will final sting them, dealing massive damage if left alive for long enough. Luckily, you can ignore these the vast majority of times because the boss will drop before they kill anyone. However, if you notice the boss's health is still pretty high when they come out, take the beast down first to ensure you don't wipe. Moving on, we have the floor 30 boss, Ningishzida. I mean, come on, I don't know. Anyway, Ning Boy is also pretty easy. He'll occasionally leave a patch of fire on the ground for his target, so if you're tanking, make sure you move him far enough away so that any melee DPS have room to fight. At times, the boss will move to the centre of the room and start casting Fear itself. When this happens, just move close to the boss and you'll avoid the annoying Fear attack. Stick him with the pointy end and he'll drop as well. Floor 40 is where you'll find Ixtab. Ixtab will frequently cast Ancient Eruption on random players that will leave behind a small purple void zone. Standing in one will cause it to explode, dealing you damage, but it's not hard to avoid these. Ixtab can cast a long frontal AoE on his target, so tanking players should face the boss away. On top of Ancient Eruption, he'll also occasionally cast Accursed Pox at random players as well. This is a much larger AoE, but it's still pretty easy to avoid, so just move out of it. Later in the fight, 2 Nightmare Bootads will spawn, but from what I've seen, you can just ignore them and focus on the boss. Ixtab is capable of moving to the middle of the room and casting a room-wide terror on the group, which makes these ads a lot more dangerous, but I've never seen this happen as he always died rather quickly. However, if you're at all worried about that happening to you, just kill the ads when they spawn. The final boss in this video is floor 50's Edda Blackbosom. Unlike the previous 4 bosses, Edda is one that requires you to pay at least a small amount of attention for. For attacks, Edda can target a random player with Dark Harvest. This will make her jump to that player and deal low damage. I only mention this one because you'll see her casting it, and I don't want anyone to be worried about a spell cast that wasn't mentioned in the video. You might also be all targeted by some AoEs when some demons appear around the edges of the room. For attacks to actually care about, Edda has 3. The first is called In Health. This is an AoE attack that will come in 2 forms. She'll either AoE the whole room except a small zone around her, or she'll AoE a medium size from where she is. It's really important not to get hit by this, so watch out. Anytime a player is hit, which can be multiple from one AoE, one of the 5 glyphs on the floor in the middle of the room will activate by lighting up. This is not a good thing. The next attack to watch out for is probably the most important one. Cold Feet. When Edda starts to cast this, you'll see a large red eye indicator on her. When this pops up, turn and face your character away from her ASAP. If your character is still looking at her when she casts this, you'll be feared for 10 seconds. This makes avoiding the in-health AoE attacks very difficult, so it's extremely important to react quickly to this. The final attack at her disposal is Black Honeymoon. This unavoidable attack will be cast periodically throughout the fight, and will hit all party members with damage being based upon the number of activated glyphs. This means if her in-health attacks manage to hit 5 targets during the fight, Black Honeymoon will wipe you. Even without 5 active glyphs, it'll still deal fairly substantial damage if enough are active, which is why it's very important to stay focused during the fight. And that about wraps up part 5. In part 6, I'll cover the tactics for the next 5 bosses. Thank you for watching.